For months, I've unraveled a nationwide pattern of missing titles at trendy online car dealer Carvana.
Here in Wake County, the company agreed to a 180-day license suspension till the end of January 2022.
Carvana is once again parked after Illinois suspends its license for the second time. Online car dealer Carvana is facing legal action and fines after some customers say they did not get their title and registration paperwork in a timely manner.
Now, I promised you that I would make a follow-up video once we had an update. I just didn't expect for the update to come so soon. We all know of Carvana by now, the used car dealership known for their online car buying and car selling experience, and even better known for their car vending machine. Carvana set themselves up to be a major disruptor in the car buying space, being one of the first ones to make the car buying experience nearly 100% online, which, as you can probably imagine, came in handy during the pandemic. But just as Carvana was beginning to gain their footing post-pandemic and setting themselves up to not only be the largest online car seller in the world, but to be one of the largest used car sellers in the world, everything began to fall apart. Now, there are many reasons as to why Carvana has gone from being a Wall Street darling to being one of the biggest messes in the automotive industry. And we're not going to be discussing all of these reasons and issues in this video. But if you're interested in learning more about this and diving deep into exactly what's been going on over the last couple of years, I've made a handful of videos on this subject, and I will have those linked down in the description below. Instead, in this video, we're going to be talking about the most recent news and updates regarding Carvana. This time, it's regarding the state of Michigan suspending Carvana's dealer's license, and ultimately the short-term fate of Carvana that has been decided by the courts. Earlier this month, Michigan suspended Carvana's dealer's license for failing to apply for title and registration within 15 days of delivery, failing to maintain odometer records, improperly issuing temporary registrations, as well as failing to have records available for inspection. Now, this may all sound very familiar to you because this actually isn't the first time that Carvana has gotten in trouble for these very same things. North Carolina, Florida, and Illinois have all suspended Carvana's dealer license at different points in times for nearly identical offenses. In fact, Paul Breaux, the general counsel for Carvana, is currently facing criminal charges in the state of Illinois because of their repeated failures to produce and process title paperwork in Illinois. So I think it's safe to assume that Carvana knows the problems and issues at hand. They know what they're doing, and yet they still continue to jeopardize not only their current business, but their future business as well. And to be honest, at this point, I'm not sure if Carvana is unable to adjust their operations in order to adhere to paperwork standards, or if they are simply unwilling to do it. It's really puzzling to me and to many people that not only watch this channel but have been following this story, how a multi-billion-dollar corporation is unable to do what so many other dealerships around the country have been doing for decades. It just blows my mind, and I haven't been able to figure it out. But I digress. The state of Michigan suspended Carvana's dealer's license, and in response, Carvana filed a temporary restraining order, which, if granted, would essentially put the suspension on hold, at least until legal proceedings could move forward. And yesterday, it was announced that temporary restraining order was not granted, which means as I sit here recording this video, Carvana's dealer's license is still suspended in the state of Michigan. Now, I'm of course not a lawyer, so take what I have to say with a little bit of grain of salt, but I actually do know about temporary restraining orders and their place in the legal system. And the purpose of a temporary restraining order, at least in the context of this issue with Carvana and in legal proceedings in general, is it's a system that can be put into place in order to protect companies or people from irreparable harm. And if a temporary restraining order is granted, then typically an injunction is put into place and the legal proceedings or any consequences from those legal proceedings are paused until those legal proceedings can continue. Now, that is of course a very oversimplified explanation, but in the context of Carvana, what they were hoping this temporary restraining order would do, what it would essentially pause the suspension of their dealer's license. That way Carvana could continue selling cars in the state of Michigan until legal proceedings could continue properly. But because the temporary restraining order was not granted, that means their license is still suspended. Now, the reason why this temporary restraining order was denied was because Carvana did not effectively argue that this suspension would cause irreparable harm to Carvana. They also didn't argue effectively that a competitor would come in, swoop up their business model, and steal their market share. And on the flip side, the state of Michigan argued that by keeping Carvana's dealer's license, it was a risk to public safety. And due to these two different arguments, the judge ruled in favor of the state. Carvana did issue a statement on the matter, calling the suspension reckless and illegal, as well as stating that the Secretary of State had violated due process requirements and that they were brazenly violating their own rules. Michigan Department of State also issued their own statement, stating that the department does not provide special treatment to any dealerships or national corporations, also stating that Michigan met with Carvana many times in order to remedy the issues, and yet these issues still persisted. And this is actually true. Representatives from the state of Michigan have met with Carvana a number of different times. In fact, issues with Carvana and Michigan first began in February of 2021. The state addressed these issues with Carvana at a conference in March of 2021, at which point they were placed on an 18-month probation agreement. Another meeting was held in January of 2022. All the while, the State Department kept receiving Carvana complaints. Now, because of the fact that Carvana does hold dealer's license throughout the entire United States, and dealer's license in general are handled on a state-by-state basis, Carvana can still continue selling cars to Michigan residents, but they would have to be sold out of state and 100% online. And so though the state of Michigan can absolutely make it harder for Carvana to sell cars in the state, they really can't eliminate it altogether because of the fact that Carvana does hold many different dealer's licenses, including those states neighboring Michigan. But Carvana does hold one physical location in Michigan. This is a car vending machine located in Novi, Michigan. And as a result of this suspension, Carvana can't conduct any dealership business from that location. And this includes test drives, displaying vehicles, paperwork, and more. The next hearing regarding this matter is currently scheduled for November 22nd. And as far as this suspension as a whole, in a best case scenario, Carvana will get their dealer's license reinstated under a certain set of requirements that they have to adhere to in order to keep that license, very similar to what the state of Illinois did. But in a worst case scenario, there is a possibility that Carvana's dealer's license could be revoked altogether, though I don't necessarily think that this is the most likely scenario. But on the flip side, the more that Carvana gets in trouble on a state-by-state basis, the more likely that it is that Carvana will get their license completely revoked eventually. As I'm recording this video, Carvana's stock is sitting at $14.48 per share, and they are down 82% in the last 6 months. But with that being said, you guys, the most up-to-date information regarding Carvana. Now, I know I've made a lot of videos about Carvana lately, and the reason is because you guys seem to really like this topic, and so I continue to cover it. Like always, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.